Automobiles, in one form or another, have been around since the 1800s. This single invention has revolutionized transportation and left the traditional horse and carriage in the past. Over 100 years later, the staple of the 20th century is ready for a revolution of its own. Autonomous or driverless cars promise a brighter future for mobility, city planning, and accessibility, which has people feeling both excited and apprehensive about this emerging technology.
With autonomous vehicles, it would give me that independence.
To be honest, it kind of scares me. Freedom.
I'm Alex Smyth, and after I was diagnosed with Usher syndrome, I had to end my journey of getting my driver's license. As a result, I've always been a passenger. But thanks to advances in autonomous vehicle research, technology, and innovation, I myself may soon be able to step behind the wheel and experience life in the driver's seat. So join me as we explore the future of automotive transportation in Shifting Gears, Autonomous Vehicles. While exploring autonomous vehicles, I wanted to find out what other people from the blind and low vision community felt about this technology. I sat down with Carrie Anton, Stephanie Leach, and Hamid Saifi and asked what an autonomous vehicle would mean for them.
As a person who's legally blind, I really wish that I could get behind a wheel or just have that independence to go where I want, when I want, for an affordable price. And that, I think, is what autonomous cars will do for me.
For me, it's the safety is, for me, my biggest concern, and how it can be insured, because I don't know if I would want to trust my life in the hands of technology.
So definitely it's a passion to want to drive. And I think autonomous vehicles is something which would give you that ability for someone like myself.
I own a house, I own cottages and land and things, but the one freedom that I don't have is to get where I want, when I want, at an affordable cost. So it would really be a dream come true for me.
Before we go any further, we need to answer the basic question: what is an autonomous vehicle? For that, I meet up with Paul Godsmark, CTO and co-founder of CAVCO, the Canadian Automated Vehicle Centre of Excellence in Edmonton.
An autonomous vehicle is basically a vehicle that can drive itself, and it can drive itself safely on public roads in most weather conditions. A connected vehicle is a vehicle that talks to other vehicles and talks to the infrastructure. The connected vehicle technology is aimed at improving the efficiency of the road network and providing safety benefits because the vehicles talk to each other. And most autonomous vehicles are connected anyway, so the key thing when discussing connected vehicle technology is what technology is being used to provide the connection, because that determines the functionality that gets added on through the connection.
When gauging the autonomy of a vehicle, there are 5 levels of classification.
So level 0, the vehicle has no automated features whatsoever. Level 1 is the sort of vehicle that most people drive, and one or more of braking, acceleration and steering have assistance from an automated feature. So cruise control, if your vehicle has cruise control, it's a level 1 vehicle. Level 2 is where it gets more interesting. That's where you get a multiple combination of those features, and the car gives the impression that it's driving itself, but it has to have oversight, constant oversight from the driver, otherwise it's not safe. Level 3 is when real automation comes in, because level 3 is when the vehicle will do some of the journey all on its own and it doesn't need the driver to pay attention. So for instance, highway on-ramp to off-ramp, the vehicle will drive itself during that period and you don't have to pay attention, but when you get to the off-ramp, it will tell you, right, you take back control, driver. And level 4 is when the vehicle can do journeys, entire journeys without any input, but it's constrained in some way on that journey. So it might be constrained by it can only operate in a certain area, or it can't operate outside of specific weather patterns. And then level 5 is basically the vehicle will drive anywhere at any time. Demonstration vehicles have shown level 4 capability with no one in the driver's seat, and the leading autonomous vehicle developer is a company called Waymo, and they have come out of Google's self-driving car project, and they have said several times that they will be starting commercial operations this year, probably in Phoenix, Arizona, and they will hope to have a second city this year as well.
A number of companies have started testing and piloting their autonomous vehicles on public roads. Phoenix, Arizona, as Paul mentioned, is a hotbed of activity, with California and Michigan also serving as major testing centers. But what about Canada?
Definitely within 5 years we will have mass deployment in a Canadian city. That's my prediction. The autonomous vehicle is one of the biggest tools in the smart city toolkit. In a way, the autonomous vehicle is the making of the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is really about putting sensors all over a city. Well, autonomous vehicles are sensors on wheels that can go wherever you want within a city. And the best thing we can do is to put the infrastructure in place for the connectivity, the communications, lay lots of fibre, put in lots of high-quality wireless networking, and then take advantage of all of that sensor data that these autonomous vehicle fleets will be bringing in.
Even with that information, there are a lot of questions people have surrounding autonomous and connected vehicles. So members of the blind and low vision community got an opportunity to ask the experts their biggest questions about an autonomous driving future.
Hi, my name is Hamid Saifi, and I was wondering what kind of technologies would be implemented into autonomous vehicles in order to allow people with accessibility requirements to operate them independently.
After the break, we will find out the answer to Hamid's question when Shifting Gears, Autonomous Vehicles returns. Welcome back to Shifting Gears, Autonomous Vehicles. Hamid Saifi has a question for Cabco's Paul Godsmark.
What kind of technologies would be implemented into autonomous vehicles in order to allow people with accessibility requirements to operate them independently?
Waymo have made a point of working with a gentleman called Steve Mann, who is legally blind. And their system, they have deliberately been developing a system that is accessible to certainly blind users. And so my expectation and hope is that they will come up with a system or systems that are very user-friendly for the disabled community, whatever their limitation.
Edmonton is one city that is interested in exploring the realm of autonomous vehicles. They recently announced a pilot project that will bring an autonomous shuttle to the city. The City of Edmonton's Stephanie McCabe explains more.
One of the big challenges for cities as autonomous vehicles and connected vehicles come into play is that we want to continue to build a city for people. A city where people feel connected to one another, where people are healthy, where they love, where they live. We need to ensure that the city is still built for people to connect. And we can see that there's a major change in technology in 4 areas, in automated vehicles, connected vehicles, shared mobility, and electrification of our transportation system. And as a result, we want to make sure that we're prepared as we set that next vision for the next 30 years. So this year, our City Council motioned us to understand what the impact of autonomous vehicles would be on our city plan as we enter that next major planning stage of our city. And as part of that motion, they asked us to do a pilot project by the end of this year. The City of Edmonton is very excited to be introducing Edmontonians to Ella. She's an electric autonomous shuttle in October, and we're testing that as part of developing our next city plan. So the vehicle is produced by Easy Mile, and it's operated in a number of other countries. Its cruising speed will be up to 20 kilometers an hour. It seats 6 people and can also have 6 people standing on it at the same time. And it operates on a fixed route. The vehicle is wheelchair accessible, stroller accessible, and there'll also be an attendant on site to ensure that people can easily enter and exit the vehicle.
Because Edmonton can experience some extreme weather patterns in October, the city conducts daily safety checks as part of the pilot to ensure the weather and road conditions are suitable for testing.
So every single day prior to the vehicle operating, we'll get sign off that it is a safe day to be running the vehicle, and anything that happens in terms of the weather changing while the vehicle's running, we will make sure to adjust accordingly and keep people safe.
While the vehicle is set, there are still some hurdles before the pilot is launched.
We're still working with the province through their legislative framework to test autonomous vehicles. You can't test autonomous vehicles on public roadways in Alberta yet, so we'll work through the province's framework to ensure that we're testing in an area that's safe and that meets their legislative framework. Edmonton offers some unique situations in terms of our climate and in terms of our infrastructure, so it allows us to test the vehicle in an area that hasn't necessarily been tested before. What's also really unique about our pilot is we're encouraging citizens to come and ride on the vehicle, on the autonomous electric vehicle, and for them to experience that technology. And my understanding is that hasn't happened before in Canada, so it'll allow for citizens to come down, take a ride on Ella, and tell us what their perception is of it.
This pilot project is another example of Edmonton's push to become a leader in smart city design.
The City of Edmonton has been recognized as a smart city. We've got a number of areas that we work on as a smart city. We've won a number of awards in this area, and in fact right now we are a finalist in the federal government Smart City Challenge. Our role right now is to ensure that we continue to build the city that meets the needs of Edmontonians.
The city is also involved in a project exploring connected vehicle and smart city technology, organized by the University of Alberta and utilizing partnerships with the city, province, and tech companies. The Active Aurora project is an example of what a connected future might look like. Dr. Toni Q is the director for the Center for Smart Transportation at the University of Alberta.
The vehicle is getting smarter and smarter. So now we talk about automated vehicle. But from government point of view, they want to know how in the future, how we can prepare our infrastructure to make it compatible with smart vehicle, and for the short term or for the long term.
I hopped into the pilot vehicle to get a first-hand look at what a connected vehicle could do. Alyssa Atley, communications coordinator for Active Aurora, along with other members of the project, demonstrate how it works.
So the Active Aurora project started in 2014 officially, and what that means is that was when we began starting the plans for installing roadside sensors and equipping vehicles with the ability to be able to communicate with other vehicles. And what we've done is we have a unique test bed, the first of its kind in Canada, and it includes 3 different roadways in Edmonton.
Where are the different locations that these sensors are in place?
So in Edmonton, as part of the first phase of the project, getting these sensors in place, we have 3 different roadways. So the first is Anthony Henday, Whitemud Drive, and then we have 23rd Ave, part of it as well.
With the 3 different zones that you're testing, are you getting different information? Why did you choose those 3 areas?
So we chose those areas because they are different types of roads. So 23rd Ave is an arterial road, and Whitemud's a freeway, and then Anthony Henday is a highway. So it allows us to get the different speeds, different road geometrics, being able to look at safety, and collect different kinds of data that way.
Using an app on her smartphone, Alyssa demonstrates the type of notifications drivers would receive.
So we're showing you a little bit of Whitemud Drive and 23rd Ave. So some of the things that you can see are the number of seconds counting down on the lights, giving you an advisory driving speed, which you would use in scenarios, for example, if it was icy on the Whitemud, so you might want to go 60 kilometers per hour instead of 80 kilometers per hour.
Advisory speed warning ahead. Advisory speed is 60 kilometers per hour.
So that's one of the applications that shows an advisory driving speed warning, which could be potentially used to let drivers know what the appropriate speed is based on traffic conditions, or if there's poor weather and you need to slow down. Yeah, and even letting the driver know about things like when they're entering a school zone, for example, so that they're more aware of the environment around them.
And who is behind the alerts or the communication from the sensors?
So the City Traffic Management Center would be playing a major role in relaying some of this information to the entire traffic network. Of course, we also want the vehicles to be able to communicate with each other as well. So for example, if the vehicle in front is braking suddenly, then you want the other vehicle behind it to be able to respond immediately.
This app has notifications that include speed suggestions, turn warnings, and a stoplight countdown feature.
Because not all intersections have an automatic counter, so this information can be communicated to drivers to let them know when the light is about to change.
Now, is the connected vehicle going to be able to solve the construction issues? That is the big question.
Well, you'll be able to know where there's construction and when. That will definitely be helpful for planning your route. So again, that would probably go back to the city being able to let us know exactly where these work zones are, and so that we can plan our route accordingly in real time.
So we want to have this kind of technology platform and then make sure all the vehicles will be connected to this kind of infrastructure, including pedestrian, including bicycle, including motorcycle, and potentially it has a huge benefit to our society, and that's including the disabled persons and blind persons, for example, and we can improve safety in intersection.
The Active Aurora project completed its Phase 1 in 2017 and is currently working on Phase 2, which will focus on safety and security and expand the sensor network to 200 sites, covering 20% of Edmonton and the highway between Edmonton and Red Deer.
Because the first stage was really about getting the infrastructure, which our testbed is the first of its kind in Canada, and it's also unique from other similar testbeds in the States because we have our extreme climate here with extreme cold winters, and we can test whether this equipment is going to work in those temperatures.
High collision location ahead, watch out.
So a high collision area warning is actually based on historical data. So what that means is, based on knowing where there's a lot of collisions happening, you can make a warning for that particular area to make people more aware when they're entering that area to pay more attention and drive more carefully.
Well, that's interesting because that's the thing, especially if, let's say, you're not a local to the area and you're coming around a bend or whatever that could be notorious for a lot of accidents. Good information to know.
Yeah, it's to make people more aware and improve safety.
Collisions happen every day, fatality happen every day, so we want to make sure this kind of technology can assist driver and then to improve safety. If we do today, we can reduce congestion today. If we do today, we can save lives today.
What's different about Active Aurora is it's connected vehicles. So that's the vehicle speaking to the infrastructure, and what we're testing in October is an autonomous vehicle. So when you bring autonomous and connected vehicles together, that's the ultimate power of the technology, is when you can have vehicle-to-vehicle communication and vehicle-to-infrastructure communication.
I'm Grant Hardy, and when it comes to autonomous vehicles, I'm so fascinated by all the research and development that's happening right now, but I want to know when I'm going to be able to buy one and sit behind the wheel and drive it.
We will get the answer to Grant's question when Shifting Gears Autonomous Vehicles returns. We return to Shifting Gears Autonomous Vehicles, and AMI's Grant Hardy has an important question for Cavco's Paul Godsmark.
I want to know when I'm going to be able to buy one and sit behind the wheel and drive it.
Well, the first thing I want to do is challenge the assumption that we'll be able to buy an autonomous vehicle. It doesn't actually make that much sense for the people developing the autonomous vehicles to sell them, because when they sell them, they're also basically selling a lot of access to the data that their vehicles produce. And all of the early leaders are saying we're going to provide a service. The business models mean that people will make more money and get more efficiencies if they provide this big fleet for us, so we can basically subscribe to it and get the rides that we need.
While companies are exploring the possibility of offering autonomous rideshare programs, as Paul mentioned, there is a lot of work to be done before they are the norm. In Canada, you cannot currently test autonomous vehicles on public roads, which keeps progress in this space relatively limited. the Canadian Senate released a report on the current state of readiness for autonomous vehicles in Canada, with major questions and concerns raised about how prepared Canada is for driverless vehicles. Senator Dennis Dawson spoke at the Ottawa Autonomous Vehicles Summit about the report.
Change is coming. We're talking about the change in the Senate. Change is coming. These automated vehicles are coming towards us. There's a lot of resistance on this issue, but we have to face the fact that it's not the question of if, it's a question of when. So now we're telling them with this report, start getting prepared, because this issue is coming down the road and you are not prepared. That's not tomorrow, that's today, it's happening now, and it's going to be happening more and more.
Despite these setbacks, I'm still optimistic there's a bright future ahead here in Alberta when it comes to autonomous technology. But I want to find out what's happening elsewhere in the country. For that, I'm off to my home province of Ontario. First stop, I meet with Rod Kadri, Director of Automotive Technology and Mobility Innovation at the Ontario Centres of Excellence, who tells me about some of the work being done in the province.
The Ontario Centres of Excellence is an organization that supports technology development, industry academic collaborations, and delivers programs on behalf of the Ontario government. The Autonomous Vehicle Innovation Network is a project that the Ontario government has funded and has asked us to deliver on their behalf to grow Ontario's strengths in the space of connected and autonomous vehicles. The Autonomous Vehicle Innovation Network has a number of programs, and the project in Stratford is very important because in order to commercialize a technology and in order to go global and bring back those economic benefits and that job creation into our province, we need to show customers, a company to show a customer how their technology works in a controlled real-life scenario. And that's what Stratford's doing. It's providing vehicle platforms, it's providing the enabling infrastructure, it's providing the environment, the controlled environment, so that once you've done your development work, or once you've developed your new product, or once you've taken your idea to the next level, you can integrate it onto a vehicle and bring your customer and say, look at what I can do.
It's a hot and sunny day here in the town of Stratford, and with a population of less than 35,000 people, this small southwestern Ontario town may be quaint and unassuming, but quietly it has become a leader and model in smart city planning and innovation.
I'm Dan Matheson, the Mayor of Stratford, Ontario. Stratford is a predominantly agricultural area. We're in Perth County, the largest farm gate receipts of any county in the country. We also are home to the Stratford Shakespeare Festival, founded in 1953. We're an hour and a half from downtown Toronto, 2.5 from downtown Detroit. Well, I think Stratford is a small urban community that understands that in the future, we're seeing mobility, disability, transportation, and government services all come together.
So I'm Joni Gerber, the CEO of Invest Stratford, the city's economic development corporation. So we look after all of the traditional economic development activities, if you will. A number of years ago, Stratford thought about innovation and technology in a bit of a different way. Created a business case around the infrastructure that was required to support the electric utility. And from there, we ended up with 30 kilometers of fiber in the ground and a completely wired city, if you will. Why that's been incredibly important is fast forward 10 years, and here we are able to offer autonomous vehicle and regular vehicle companies connectivity that they wouldn't otherwise get in a municipality. The other interesting approach we've taken is it's not just an enclosed track, it's not just a piece of street somewhere. We're thinking about this project as municipal-wide. So there are 24 stop-lit intersections in the city of Stratford, and all of those will be available to companies looking to test their autonomous technology and the car companies who are hoping to deploy these technologies in the very near future.
My name is Warren Ali. I am the Vice President of Innovation at the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, the APMA. Our role is actually as the go-between between the technology companies that manufacture the parts, technology, software, etc., that we go onto the vehicle, and the work that we are doing specifically related to Avon and the work that we will be doing here in Stratford is to demonstrate those technologies, products, and services that will be incorporated into those vehicles of the future. So the APMA, we've been around for 66 years, and for the past 7 or 8 years, a subset of our members that are focused on new technologies that are going to be coming up to address opportunities in connectivity, in safety, in autonomous vehicles, they needed a different environment to be able to demonstrate their production and their materials and their services and products. Stratford has a unique mix. It has an urban environment that's close to rural with agriculture initiatives. So it's all of the various scenarios in which connected and autonomous technologies, products, and services would like to be demonstrated all in one area. And then, of course, the fact that Stratford has already gone ahead and made those investments in that connected infrastructure that vehicles will need to interact with.
We are 12 to 14 square kilometers. We have really strong weather patterns here. We have 4 seasons. We have 1 million tourists a year. Autonomous and connected cars are going to need to be able to move in different weather patterns with a lot of pedestrians, minimal pedestrians. So what we found is we're kind of that living lab, the perfect size, the petri dish.
Companies are actually really intrigued and excited about what's happening here. There are a lot of really great opportunities in a municipality of our size. We're nimble, so we move quickly, and our municipality can respond and act quickly, and I think that's really what sets us apart. There's some gravitas, if you will, to being a leader in this industry.
Stepping forward and being the test facility does 3 things for us. First of all, it allows us to actually try out the technology and to be on the front edge of government as they work through this problem with manufacturers and researchers. 2, it allows us to get the infrastructure that's going to be needed at decreased rates because companies are going to need the proof of concept and make sure that their systems work. And 3, the marketing that comes with this, the differentiating that's saying our community is a little bit different than the others, is a brand that helps build on what we have. So when you put it all together, it's a perfect recipe for success.
This is really about working on mobility as a whole and ensuring that all people of all types, regardless of capabilities and capacity, have that ability now to be connected to one another in a vehicular way.
The University of Waterloo is a hub of innovation and research, and that innovation extends to autonomous vehicle technology. Currently, a student team is participating in the 3-year-long SAE Autodrive Challenge with the goal of producing a Level 4 autonomous vehicle. Ross McKenzie, Managing Director for the Waterloo Center for Automotive Research, or WATCAR, tells me more.
The University of Waterloo is one of 8 teams across North America that participates in the Autodrive Challenge. It's organized by the Society for Automotive Engineers, and General Motors is the primary sponsor. The university was one of the schools selected from a number across both Canada and the US that applied, and we're one of 2 schools in Canada that were fortunate enough to be accepted into the competition.
Ankil Patel is a member of the aptly named Autonomous team.
I got involved because I was really interested in smart cities. One of the things about autonomous vehicles, or I guess autonomous devices in general, so drones, planes, etc. All of these play really well into smart cities, and where I see smart cities playing a major role is in mitigating accidents, making commutes faster and more efficient, and in general, making sure that we're more connected. So this is a 3-year competition, and we've only finished the first year. Next year, we expect to see dynamic objects, so being able to avoid these objects, being able to avoid construction zones, as well as being able to park. So the vehicle has 2 camera sensors on top that are front-facing, and they're able to give us about 120 degrees field of vision in the front of the car. Then we have a LiDAR, which is also on top of the car, and the LiDAR gives us a 3D point cloud of our surroundings. So the way the LiDAR works, you can imagine it as 16 paintball guns stacked on top of each other, and instead of paintballs, they shoot rubber balls, and so they wait for the rubber balls to come back, and the time it takes for it to come back is how far apart or how far away objects are from the car. The LiDAR is enclosed in a cylindrical box. It has a special filter around it in order to at least filter certain frequencies of light. So as it goes through our software pipeline, it then turns it into a decision that the car can make. And the decision is funneled back to the car into steering angles and acceleration profiles for the car. And then the car drives itself.
Stephen Lee is one of the team leads on the Autonomous project.
A lot of industry news have been coming out, and a lot of just innovation, investment, and development in this space, in this tech space. And I think with all these forces that are driving it, it's becoming more and more inevitable. So I wanted to be a part of that. People should know that we are developing the tools to actually make this work. And there's just going to be a lot more productivity, and it's certainly going to be disruptive, because the moment that you turn the chairs, the two front chairs, inwards, who knows what that's going to look like. That's a new office space. You're going to have better interactions, hopefully. The car space itself, it's going to be more fun. Because I think autonomous vehicles, or rather just autonomy in general, is the future. I think it can help a lot of people in helping someone cross the street, or even more complex things like driving cars. So definitely autonomous vehicles appeals to me because of this ability to make lives easier for anyone else. One of the mantras I use right now is that the decisions I make are only as good as the data I get. And so the more data we have, the more efficient and the more safer our commute.
My name is Carrie Anton, and my question is, what is the affordability of these kinds of vehicles for people like myself and the average person?
Shifting Gears Autonomous Vehicles will return with the answer to Carrie's question after the break. Shifting Gears Autonomous Vehicles is back with a question from Carrie Anton for What Cars? Ross McKenzie.
What is the affordability of these kinds of vehicles for people like myself and the average person?
I foresee the day when you will be able to buy an autonomous vehicle. It's not on the short-term horizon that those will be publicly available. The first deployment will probably be vehicles that perform an autonomous shuttle. But there's definitely an ability to buy an autonomous vehicle on the horizon. They'll be a little more expensive than a standard vehicle, but as with everything else, when technology hits a mass production scale, costs come down.
Accessible transportation is a major issue for members of the disability community. One company that is tackling this issue is the UK company Arrigo. At the Ottawa Autonomous Vehicle Summit, Arrigo CEO David Keane explained how their vehicle can help the lives of people with disabilities. By the way, he uses the term supercomputer to describe people because of our ability to process countless amounts of information simultaneously and subconsciously.
We have a number of our supercomputers who actually need our help. They might have a disability, they might have a brain or neurological issue, they might be blind, they might have a medical condition like epilepsy, for instance, which doesn't allow them to drive. They might be just too old that they now can't drive. And what this does is it means that the effective mobility of these people in our society is limited. And I'm not talking about hundreds of miles, I'm just talking about a mile or 2 miles from their homes to the shops, or to their friends, or to where they need to go. And we really need to do something about that. My company, Arrigo, set about trying to find a solution for those people. And we created a Pod Zero. And it's called Pod Zero because it's zero emissions, because it's an EV. It's zero driver, and it's zero collisions, because it is a completely autonomous vehicle.
The Pod Zero comes in a variety of models, with passenger sizes ranging from 2 up to 15. With cameras, sensors, and screens lining the vehicle, it is able to scan the environment to avoid collisions. It is also equipped with lights over the wheel covers that change color to indicate if the vehicle is driving or stopping.
It doesn't go very big distances, it only goes 50 miles. It has a top speed of only 15 miles per hour. And in fact, actually, when it's operating, it only averages out about 6 miles per hour. But if you're disabled and you want to get around, 6 miles an hour is pretty good. And if you can get into this vehicle, and this vehicle knows where you want to go, it can take you straight there.
Because of the Pod Zero's low speed, it enables the vehicle to drive in non-conventional spaces.
We're operating in primarily pedestrianised areas, and we can also confine the environment and make the environment a lot easier for us to solve the problem of running autonomous vehicles in those areas.
Since there is no driver or controls, the interior space is designed with full accessibility in mind.
And we've spent a lot of time in the UK working with institutions like the Guide Dogs for the Blind to develop the pod to make it so super friendly for anyone who's got a disability. And I'm very pleased to say that our third international headquarters we're announcing today, and that will be in Ottawa. And although it's a small beginning, I think it's going to be a really big thing to develop collaborations and really bring the Aurigo pods to locations within Ottawa and wider into Canada.
Tech companies and auto manufacturers aren't the only ones developing autonomous vehicles. At the region of Waterloo's Emergency Services Training and Research Complex, University of Waterloo staff and researchers are testing their autonomous vehicle called the Autonomoose. Danson Garcia, hardware lead for the project, describes the vehicle.
Well, the Autonomoose is, first and foremost, is a research platform based out of the University of Waterloo. And what we're researching on is how we can drive vehicles autonomously. And so there's a lot involved in this particular project, right? Of course, there's the hardware devices that come into play to drive the car autonomously.
Some of the hardware includes a LiDAR sensor attached to the roof of the car that is surrounded by 8 cameras.
There's 3 in front, there's 2 on each side, and there's 1 at the back. And why are they positioned like that? Well, because we want to make sure that when we go around and collect data, we can restitch all those photos and images and create this image that basically surrounds the entire car. At the back of the 8 cameras, there's 2 GPS antennas that gathers GPS satellite signals onto the car. The reason why there's 2 is so that we can actually better predict where the car is. And in the trunk, basically what we have is a CPU that has 2 graphics cards. And the reason why we have those 2 is because we're trying to do detection not only for vehicles, right, but also for pedestrians and cyclists. And what we try to do in this object detection is not only detect these objects, but also predict where their movements are going to be next. That way we can see them as obstacles and we can avoid them in terms of where their path is. Well, the next step for us actually, well, in the near term, we're planning to drive publicly on local roads. And we're pretty close. Hopefully we will do that in the next couple of months. We're planning to do 100 kilometers of public road driving.
Ross McKenzie explains how the Autonomoose is able to handle the unique Canadian weather.
One of the big advantages we have here is the ability to do full 4-season testing for all of our automotive research. And in the autonomous space, there's not a lot has been undertaken for winter driving conditions. And we've had some significant advances in that space, able to process images that are partially clouded over from a camera because there's raindrops on them or ice is formed from snowflakes landing on the camera lens, but still able to use those images off the camera. There's one element where we did some custom work to enhance our software to be able to handle those partial images.
I had heard enough about the Autonomoose, so it was time for me to hop in and go for a ride. First, as a passenger. Carlos Wang, a member of the Autonomoose team, explains how to get things started.
Carlos, we're in the vehicle. This is the moment to shine. So what now?
We start the vehicle by using this joystick. So this joystick directly communicates with the computer at the back, and that computer does all the autonomous driving and whatnot.
Last thing, before we get started, I noticed there's a big red button that says emergency stop. What is that for?
That is to cut all actuation signals to the car. In the scenario where you think it's too dangerous for the car to drive itself, you want to just like, boom, you hit it, and then you take over the wheel. The computer will say, okay, the driver took over the car, I'm just gonna let the driver take full control.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, great, let's get going.
Carlos pressed the green button on the controller to get the car in motion.
You're gonna see it's switching gears and it's gonna start driving.
This is ridiculous. Like the steering wheel is going on its own, the car is moving, your feet aren't on the brakes or the gas, your hands aren't on the wheel, and it's driving.
Yes.
I'm speechless. Honestly, like you hear about this, you read about this, but being in the vehicle and it's driving on its own, I don't know whether I'm super excited or nervous. Like, wow, just wow.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is truly the future right here.
Part of the future is the real-time 3D LiDAR map, which shows the car and its surroundings. Green lines projecting from the front of the car displays possible paths the car might take, with green dots marking the car's route.
It's kind of like you put cheese, or you line up some cheese, and then you got the mouse kind of eating each piece of cheese, but it's kind of going towards the cheese by itself.
But Carlos, this isn't the autonomous mouse, this is the autonomous moose. So I think let's chase the green dots, let's go around the track. I don't know what is weirder, whether it's the car that just gauging and changing the speed on its own, or when you just see the subtle adjustments of the steering wheel. I'm torn between the two because both of them are just radical to me, but I mean, the whole overall experience is really, really unique. Have I told you how cool this is yet? I feel I need to reiterate how cool this is.
I think it's cool too.
After a few laps as a passenger, it was my turn to get behind the wheel for the first time since I was diagnosed with Usher syndrome.
I am so excited. I'm finally behind the wheel. It's my time to shine. Oh. I've been dreaming about this for a while. 3, 2, 1, engage. And we're off. Oh, this is so weird. It's such a strange feeling being behind the wheel, not touching it, and it's just turning on its own. I don't have to do any braking, any gas or anything.
I started to enjoy myself pretty quickly in the driver's seat.
This is so cool. Look, Mom, no hands. I never knew driving could be this easy.
We currently are still like in the baby steps, or we're in the infancy of autonomous driving. I guess it's kind of like if you're a dad and you teach your son or your daughter how to ride a bicycle. Of course, there's the aspect where you actually are kind of scared that they're gonna fall, right? But at the same time, you gotta let them grow.
I'm Laura Bain, and what I want to know is whether I, as someone with vision loss, am actually going to be able to drive one of these autonomous vehicles by myself.
I think that's the main goal. The main goal is to actually allow people with all needs, right, basically be able to drive the car.
When a technology shift as seismic as this one takes place, there is always challenges that must be faced. I've witnessed some of the newest innovations and met the people working to make autonomous vehicles possible. And frankly, I couldn't be more excited.
I can't wait for the day that I can hop into a car, drive where I need to go without having to worry about my disability. And thanks to vehicles like the Autonomous, I feel that day is just around the corner. Thanks for riding along with me on Shifting Gears Autonomous Vehicles. Now, time to take the Autonomous for one last spin.
Host, Alex Smyth. Videographer and editor, Patrick Kelly. Producer, Alex Smyth. Integrated Described Video Specialist, Simone Cupid. Graphics, Mike Smith. Senior Producer, Jennifer Johnson. Post-Production Supervisor, Janice Civitilli. Audio Post, Daniel Salmon. Director, Production, AMI TV, Cara Nye. Director, Programming, AMI TV, Brian Perdue. Vice President, Programming and Production, John Melville. Additional filming, Darcy Toni and Matt McGurk. Additional content, Pond 5. President and CEO, David Errington. Copyright, 2018 Accessible Media Inc.